I said, and I'm going to back it up through all these amazing comments, this is definitely the coolest panel at the entire conference. I'm Brandon Busteed, and I am simply serving as a moderator. We have some incredible folks whose organizations are doing some incredible work. And we're going to, as I've encouraged them, try to keep some of the opening comments fairly brief, give a specific example of some of the work that they're doing. A lesson learned, because I think this is a conference where we could all afford to actually share a little bit more of the lessons learned in terms of our work. We talk a lot about our accomplishments, but I think we're gathering a lot of insights that are helpful to kind of reflect on that. So those are the couple of framing questions that I have, which is to say that we will have quite a bit of time for Q&A. That's what we're aiming for, so get ready to lob a couple of good questions in and go for that. I'm just going to open up. This is a panel on pre-hire solutions. Pre-hire solutions, what does that really mean? I'll describe it from the backdrop of trends that are happening, right? We are sitting in what economists, I love this term, call a full employment recession right now, right? A new term that I think they just made up this year because, well, it's just a total anomaly. I don't think it's an anomaly. I think we are going to be in a historically low unemployment level for decades to come. And in fact, we've already been here, with the exception of the black swan event of a pandemic. We have been in the US at historically low unemployment rates for at least a decade now. Today we sit at about 3.5% unemployment. Anybody know what the historical low was? Give you a hint, May 1953. We hit 2.5%. So in the context of the US, right, 3.5% unemployment is near an all-time low. And I'm convinced that we will go below that 2.5 threshold in the years to come. And the reason why is that the human population pie is just not growing. If you look at net birth rates over death rates in the US and then add in immigration, we're expected to grow those two combinations together 0.4% between now and 2060, which is to say we're not growing at all. You all know the demographics of the coming of age 18-year-olds, because if you've been in higher ed, you've been listening to Nathan Grau's work, right? Over the next 5 years, the percentage of 18-year-olds coming of age in the US is going to be down about 15%. This is problematic for higher ed enrollments, and it's also problematic for companies, right? Because these 18-year-olds are the new generation of hires. That's happening at the same time that, wait for it, we're expected to lose 70 million baby boomers to retirement in the next 5 years. The math just doesn't work. We are going to be in this state of low unemployment for decades to come, and that is why the solutions that these organizations are working on are going to become more important, because we are at what I call widest funnel talent. Employers used to have the luxury back in the day of, like, you know, screening people out. Oh, well, bachelor's degree required. Everybody that doesn't, go to the side, right? We were able to winnow down that talent pipeline. But when you need every available human being out there, you're at widest funnel talent. Now, not everybody is fully trained and ready and prepared, so that's where pre-hire solutions really are going to become a growing part of this opportunity for us. So let's get things started. You guys ready? Mm-hmm. All right, so Joe, we'll kick off with you, sir. Tell us about some of the work that Skillstorm is doing, and would love to hear more about it.
Sure. Nice to meet you all. I'm Joe with Skillstorm. As you can tell, not from around here, originally from the UK. But essentially, Skillstorm has been around for 20 plus years now. It was founded in 2002. Our mission has always been to accelerate opportunity. Our mission has always been to accelerate opportunity. And with that in mind, what we've seen being in an IT services sector is that the net new talent has got fewer and fewer each year, and the demand for talent has increased year over year. And this problem is exacerbated by, you know, your traditional IT staffing companies and service companies, where you go on the IT carousel, you work for Bank of America, then you work for Citibank, and then you walk over to Wells Fargo, but there's no net new talent creation. And the workforce development system the workforce development system and the education system are somewhat broken. So what we've done is we've created a workforce and technology talent platform. That platform consists of 3 pillars. One is an employer-paid model. This is where we work with essentially college graduates, as well as transitioning service members and military veterans. We essentially train them in specific technologies based on our clients' needs, and then deploy those people within 3 to 4 months at these organizations. Essentially, we work with large GSIs, financial service organizations, both on the commercial and federal services sectors. We help them design what the curriculum looks like. We work with them to understand what their workforce needs are over the next 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 months. And then we develop that curriculum. We go out and we hire, make sure they're a good cultural fit, make sure they've got the technical aptitude. And then over 3 to 4 months, we train them in specific technologies, get them industry certified, and then deploy them as cyber engineers, cloud engineers, full stack software engineers.
It's amazing, thanks. And Pierre, many of you know Pierre and OpenClassrooms have been pioneers of apprenticeship model, and especially in high-tech, new-tech, white-collar areas. Pierre, French-based company, but you've been in the US for a little while. Would love to hear more about what OpenClassrooms is up to.
Thank you. I'll chime in with my older European accent. Apprenticeship is actually, as you know, a mature market in Europe, so it's quite interesting to hear those accents on stage, because I think this is also telling a story how Europe is also kind of leading some of the way around apprenticeship and trying to see how that could be adapted locally in the States. So I founded OpenClassrooms about 10 years ago. It's a mission-driven company, a B Corp certified company. And we're running apprenticeship programs here in the States. We started in Europe, indeed. We're running registered apprenticeship programs. So concretely, what does that mean? And I'll give you an example of a case study we've been working on with Merck, which is a big pharmaceutical company in the Northeast. So they wanted to hire data analysts and digital marketing experts from a more diverse background. So we created apprenticeship programs, registered them with the DOL, sourced potential candidates. So for like 10 slots, we received about 700 applications. Those slots were taken broadly by half of youth apprenticeship, so between the age of 18 to 24, and the other half would be between the age of 25 to 40. We have 100% people of color. We have 1 veteran in the group, 50% men and women. None of them has college degrees. They start with a 3-month pre-apprenticeship program. It's a boot camp, so very intense, like 3 months to get started with. So they're trained on data and digital marketing, so they attain like a certain minimum level of skills so they can be productive within Merck, and then after they go into this 12-month-long program, so apprenticeship program, in which they're going to have what we call on-the-job training 4 days a week. So that means basically they work at Merck as digital marketing expert or data analyst under the supervision of a workplace advisor, basically the manager. And for 1 day a week, they're going to be trained by OpenClassrooms on projects and courses online with a dedicated mentor on a one-on-one basis via video conference. So it lasts for 12 months. They start with a wage of about $25 an hour. And those wages will increase over time as they gain more skills. So every couple of months, they validate new skills, and their wages will increase up to $50 an hour, which is pretty decent quality job at the end. And they end up being hired by Merck. So really great, amazing program. And when we see the feedback also from both managers in terms of the quality people they manage to attract and train, and by also apprentices, the impact you have on people's lives is quite amazing. So we're wishing and building more scale into those pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs.
Yeah, both of you touched on it. It's going to be a theme throughout the panel. One of the things that employers are trying to drive at through these pre-hire solutions is improving their diversity talent pipeline, which they have struggled mightily and continue to struggle mightily to achieve. And of course, people who are coming without college degrees. I know both your organizations have folks with college degrees coming to programs, but it's largely providing a rapid solution relative to the bachelor's degree for a lot of people, and you're disproportionately getting a diverse crowd of participants. And so as a segue, MC is with us, Junior Achievement. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Junior Achievement, one of the largest youth organizations in the United States and globally, serving about 5 million students every year, disproportionately so within Title I school districts. And they've been around for over 100 years, so you might think, oh, you know, what's going on with Junior Achievement? The answer is a lot. MC, do you want to tell us what you guys are up to?
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Good afternoon, everyone. So obviously we cover K through 25, and in our pre-hire solution space, really that 18 or 17, so we start in that 17 to 25, what we found is that in our communities, because we have people in all of the communities around the country, the corporations are looking for that pipeline, but they're having jobs that kids don't know about. And they need certifications like SIE or Marine Tech certification. But we know if they just get a certification, that might not get them over the threshold. So what we do is we bring them down our pipeline. We have a fit and an interest inventory to see where they're at. We start early with the corporations coming in with their volunteers from day one, working with the students. We engage their parents. We also engage their peers to be working together and talking, but over a 6 to 8 month period, they're not only learning those skills about being work ready and financially capable, because that's important, because once they get that job, they're gonna have to make some decisions that can either direct them going in a positive way or a negative way on credit, et cetera, but also entrepreneurially minded. And at the same time, they're also going through these certification programs. So once they finish the programs, what happens is our relationships with our corporate partners, whether it's in Fort Lauderdale or it's in Philadelphia or whatever, they will guarantee that that youth has an interview or an apprenticeship going in. And they'll end up paying for that placement and that certification. So there's no risk to the employer. There's a pipeline in. The students are there with a trusted advisor who's helping them along, because important to this whole thing from our vantage point is we can give them those skill sets, but the mindset of being able to say they have a sense of purpose once they get that job, we know that's a big factor in retaining and really having a life quality as you're in your work life, 40 hours or I guess more for a lot of us a week. So that's kind of what we're currently leaning into in that space.
That's awesome, and Manoj, Ramp is another really interesting player in this space. Tell us a little bit more about what you guys are up to.
Yeah, I mean, again, my name is Manoj. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ramp. Our vision is simple and also grand. We want to help people from where they are in life to wherever they want to be, and we're starting with careers. What we've built is an AI-enabled platform that almost serves as a personal guide, a mentor, a guru of sorts to help folks throughout the job search process, from figuring out career paths that could be a good fit for them, to assessing what their baseline levels of skills are, and if there's a lack of skills, how they can quickly find resources and knowledge bases to upskill, and then connecting them with an employer and doing it in a way that that feels job seeker friendly. One of the things that we've learned, being around for the past couple of years is that information asymmetry is by far the biggest problem. It's what's preventing folks from finding jobs that they deserve or getting them to jobs that they don't necessarily enjoy doing. And one of our aspirations is how do we kind of democratize the process, demystify it, make this information readily, freely, and scalably available for everybody, and provide great employment outcomes for those that are looking for jobs.
So I'd said I wanted to hear some lessons learned, and I might refine and tweak it just a tad to talk about lessons learned around scale, right? That's one of the biggest challenges that we all have. There's a lot of incredible solutions, a lot of nifty applications, lots of pilots, but like getting to that scale threshold is really one of the penultimate challenges that I think we have in the ed tech space. And you think tech, well, tech scales. Not necessarily. We're still talking about century-old educational systems. We're still talking about centuries-old employer systems, if I can call them that. And so would just love to hear insights or lessons learned, Joe, in your work. And I know you've been in this space a long time, just beyond Skillstorm. But what would be your big insight or lesson learned so far?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we've found is that because there are so many different tech stacks and because tech is constantly evolving, is that we have to be very nimble and we have to be very agile and constantly evolve our curriculum. So one of the things that's been absolutely fundamental to our success and our growth is working with large blue chip clients, clients that have thousands of developers on their team, both here and overseas, understanding what their needs are and then delivering cohesive teams at scale. So what we'll do is, as I mentioned earlier, we'll understand their specific tech stack, and let's say it's in cyber. We'll then design the curriculum to that, and then we'll build a team of 15 to 20 people for them every month over 6 months or over 12 months, or however many developers or cyber engineers that they need. And that to us is really important because we can't deliver 1 or 2 at a time because people want different things. So for us to scale effectively is really working with some of the largest clients. Now, what that also enables us to do is to overbuild, because we can overbuild slightly, and because the people in the program have specific skills, we can then deliver them one at a time to other organizations. But first and foremost, you've got to have large clients who can do this at scale, and you can help them scale, and you can scale along with them.
That's awesome. Pierre, what would your answer be?
Yeah, I think to piggyback what Joe just said, I'd say, first of all, scale comes from employers' needs, especially in the apprenticeship world. So you need to convince many employers. And first of all, you need, especially in apprenticeship, really explain what apprenticeship means and doesn't mean. And that takes a while, first of all. Not so many employers will be able to hire 100 apprentices every year. So big corporations can do that, although many corporations are also kind of slowing down on recruitment right now. So it's definitely a challenge, meaning we need to probably tap into more smaller businesses like SMBs, which broadly know nothing about apprenticeship or had like an idea of apprenticeship that is not really what we're talking about here. So that's why we started and launched kind of a talent marketplace that is a way to really simplify everything and to like take that burden of like building a program, registering the program, finding talent, selecting them, running, reporting, and all of that, taking that burden off the employer, and then really focusing on something that is very simple. What do you need? I need one software developer. Okay, great. Those are the profiles. Who do you want to interview, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really kind of a very pragmatic approach. So we've seen that working better than kind of a very wide corporate program that is based on goodwill and CSR and DEI initiatives, and that in a recession period, I think might struggle to really scale further. So really kind of trying to fill business needs will be the key to greater scale of apprenticeship, I think.
Yeah, super insight. So MC, nonprofit organization, correct me on the stat, is it 30 million people who have touched junior achievement programs since your inception? Or am I off on that?
Wow, probably more in 100 years, but yeah, a lot.
How are you doing? I mean, those are big numbers. So that's impact, right?
Yeah, 11 million around the world a year, and hundreds of thousands of volunteers just in the United States alone. So, and I'm one of them. So, so it's scale for JA. We're known for being turnkey. We're known for making it easy on the corporations. We're known for being a mass connector with our partners, whether it's the school system or not. So we can operationalize things very quickly, but we have to do it in a thoughtful way. And that means that for our corporate partners, making sure that it is easy for them to engage. And that means for our school systems that it is easy to have their youth flow right into these opportunities. And things that kind of can pressure test or cause issues are making it really flexible when you volunteer. Think about what COVID's done. You know, we all have different volunteer models. So how do we have them engage, and how do we have them really work with the youth to really think through where they want to go? So that is an area. Also making sure that we're local, jobs are local. What type of opportunities does that specific community need? What type of certifications do they need? So understanding that and understanding it across the whole nation so that we can aggregate them and scale that quickly. So really starting with the local community, starting with what that corporation needs, and then really figuring out how we use technology in a thoughtful way that enables it to scale.
That's awesome. Manoj, what have you guys been learning?
A couple of things. I mean, we don't see scale as being an all or nothing thing. I think with the technology that we're seeing and advances in ChatGPT, OpenAI, large language learning models, there's most certainly opportunities for scale in delivering content to folks. With that said, there's always going to be a group of people that would benefit from a in-premise, handheld method of delivery of instruction. That's always going to be there. And so trying to necessarily find scale in that is not a worthwhile pursuit. We see scale as what incremental progress can we make? Could we now provide personalized career guidance to 1 million people through an AI-enabled product? And if we're able to do that, great. And so we're just inching forward and not necessarily thinking of scale as, okay, it's either fully scalable or not scalable. That's just not the approach that we're taking.
So look, I promised that we would open this up early to Q&A. Feel free to ask a question that might be general to the whole panel. If you've got a specific question for one of the panelists, fire away. Are you all ready? Anybody got a question yet? Because I can keep asking them, but I feel like the audience participation would be really cool. Anybody? Bueller?
Oh.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Erica. In my previous life, I was a college professor. And I found it very frustrating getting a hold of these kids at age 18 to 21 for 16 weeks and how little effect you could have. And how much of those skills, it felt like you were putting a Band-Aid on an arterial wound that had started so much sooner. So I'm curious about how your organizations are intervening at younger ages, because I think we see, especially in the K through 12 worlds, of students just getting passed along without actually learning those skills and not getting set up for success in their next stage, wherever they are. So I'm curious to see how you guys are affecting that positively, because it sounds like you are.
Yeah, I can lead off. So we start obviously at kindergarten and go through. We know from research that if you start in those younger ages, that they're going to be positive attitude, life satisfaction. So it's important. We start there, we introduce it, and then through 6 through 12. So we're talking about pre-hire solutions, but from 6 through 12, we're actually going in there and teaching them the skills to be financially capable, work-ready, and entrepreneurially minded. And it's not only teaching them, but we're applying them. So in that application, they will go into a career fair. We have a career fair that's done virtually and in person with 350,000 6th through 8th graders in the US every year. So they go in and they meet hundreds and hundreds of different corporations in their local community. So it's that point where at different stages of their development, they're introduced to it, then they get those foundational skills, and then they start applying it, and we start talking to them and thinking, where's your interest, where's your fit, where do you want to go? And start building on that, because if you think about it, I was just on a financial literacy panel 2 weeks ago, and the question is, you don't teach math once and you're done, right? So how do you teach work and career skills once and you're done? How do you take a financial semester course in high school, one semester, and you know it? If you think about financial literacy, and that's integral into work and career because you use it, it's an everyday muscle that you have to use, whether you're saving for 3 months in case there's an issue, or you're opening a credit card at 18 to 25. And we know in those points, in that early years when you're starting, it's really difficult if you make a mistake to kind of rebound, because we're all going to have issues. So we firmly believe in creating that pathway and enabling that.
Yeah, your comment about the constancy of needing to reinforce something like career exploration or career whatever, kind of like you don't just teach math 1 year, right? Why should we think that a quick primer on careers in 8th grade or a 20-minute visit to the guidance counselor is a fix for that. You know, today's 18 to 14-year-olds in the US are the least working generation in US history. We're complaining that they're not work ready, graduating from either high school or college. There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is they have worked less than any previous generation. And if you haven't had work experience, how do you understand what people do in their jobs? You know, I used to think an engineer, literally when I was little, I used to think of an engineer as the person who drove the train. I didn't understand that like engineer could be this vast term with all kinds of career outcomes, right? So a silly example, but one that we're certainly falling down on. Financial literacy. You don't just teach it once. There's so many aspects of our lives that are wrapped around that. Pierre, did you have anything to add on that question? Then we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, for sure. I would chime in on the integration of higher education and apprenticeship and workforce development, because I think the question is not really like going to college or not going to college and then going into one of those programs, but how can you really intertwine everything? So we're, for example, we're working in partnership with community colleges in California, El Camino, Long Beach, Bakersfield, and others, to build apprenticeship programs with their students and graduates, local employers. We're running those apprenticeship programs. They're registered with the state of California, and basically they lead to college credits. So meaning that the workplace, the on-the-job training, workplace-based learning will be recognized as well as, you know, college progress, really. So we're moving into the direction of what we would call degree apprenticeship. So you could like do your apprenticeship and your degree program at the same time and graduate an associate or bachelor's or even a master's degree, like it's the case in, you know, the UK or France or Switzerland, Germany, and many other countries. And it's a great way to really apply everything you learn in college right away at the workplace and back and forth. So really efficient way in terms of learning, in terms of pedagogical skills, but also in terms of economics and financials, because tuition fees are basically paid by the employer. You're getting paid as well during your college program. So imagine a place where you could graduate from an Ivy League through apprenticeship, debt-free, and paid at the same time. This is what we see in Europe, by the way. So it is possible, and I think in the next few years we'll see more and more of those programs leading to both like apprenticeship and college credentials.
Other questions? Who's ready?
Let me get to you.
Hi, my name is Joel. I'm with Jobs for the Future. I'm on the talent team, and one of the things that I often think about is accessibility. I'm a person with non-visible and visible disabilities, and I know that we often face a lot of barriers to employment. I know that the unemployment rate for people with disabilities is twice as high as for people with no disability. And so I'm just curious to hear how your organizations, you know, your initiatives are focusing and centering, you know, people with disabilities, or, you know, who are facing barriers to unemployment.
Great. And which of you wants to weigh in? Oh, go ahead.
It's a great question. Thanks for asking. I think in a model that is more flexible, you can adapt better to many forms of disability. So we've been taking that very seriously. So we've got about 8% of our students who have a declared disability of some sort. There are many ways to adapt against that in the way we tutor and mentor, in the duration of the training program. It could be part-time, could be full-time, could be longer, could be shorter. You can recognize more of what they've been doing previously, prior learning recognition, prior work experience as well. In terms of flexibility around the scheduling, the logistics. Then we have trained mentors and career coaches to really like go and adapt everything, you know, the way they work with our students. We made our platform also accessible under the WCAG norm, AA, which is, you know, pretty good standard, and like less than 1% of websites are actually, you know, compliant to that. So it's a lot of different things. I would say, generally speaking, we need also a strong business model behind it, because, like it or not, it is more costly to adapt for those disabilities. And we're seeing also working closely with state funding or workforce development boards, specific pockets of funding, which is great because it means that we then have more means to attract and then adapt the training, make sure that we have the same amount of people with disabilities applying, but also succeeding and completing and getting placed at the end of the day.
Any others want to weigh in on that one?
Yeah, one of the things we've been doing over the past couple of years is getting data points from the employers and having conversations with folks that have disabilities, whether they're visible or invisible, on their experiences at these employers, because the reality is that there are only a certain finite number of employers that are truly providing a space where folks with disabilities can thrive. I've seen this personally many, many times where folks that have disabilities get hired and they get fired for reasons that we all know why after 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And so one of the things we've been trying to do is how do we get the pockets of information and create clusters and use that to drive the right folks to those types of employers, and quite honestly dissuade them from even applying to jobs where we know that they're going to be positioned to fail from day one, right? And so we're trying to balance collecting that type of data because it is important, and I do feel like, again, it comes back to access to information. How do we get folks to understand these are the types of jobs that historically we've seen folks succeed. These are the types of skills that historically we've seen folks with disabilities learn in a meaningful amount of time. And here are a very discrete group of employers that we've collected data that we know folks succeed, and then we make those matches more efficiently.
Yeah, I think promoting the business case, I was in a forum 5-6 years ago on cool abilities, and it was an entire discussion about all the various disabilities and what they called kind of the reflexive property of that, which is for every disability, there's usually also some special capability that person brings. And the employers who were really thinking about the cool ability, that was the terminology they were using, were making a very strong business case out of it. Stronger retention rates because they were hiring people who were traditionally being turned away by other employers. I mean, so that, the stories went on and on, but what I left that forum really impressed by was there is a very clear business case for investing in the training, development, hiring, and retention of people with any number of disabilities. I don't think we've really made that very clear. Very few employers have understood what that case could be for themselves or for others. So, other questions? Yes.
I got the mic.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Casey, recently of Year Up. I think you've done a great job sort of painting the picture of that missing piece. In a lot of the challenges and opportunities aren't about tech. They're about aligning incentives and getting the system to work together. I'm curious, what are one or two of the top ones that you think tech can be the answer in unlocking impact and scale, to Manoj's point, however you define scale?
Well, Manoj, you might want to lead off. I mean, AI is a major part of what you're doing, so.
Yeah, so a couple of areas where we can see tech actually come in and start helping. One very specific use case is this notion of interview readiness, right? And so let's say that you actually have an interview or you want to get an interview. How do we use tech or AI to make sure you have the perfect resume without you doing any work? Make sure you have the perfect cover letter without you having to do any work. Make sure that you can do enough research about a company and understand what a company does in a way that you can explain to a 5-year-old without doing any work. These are all things that are possible today. You can go on ramcareers.com and learn that yourself. You have an interview tomorrow with MuleSoft. God, it's really hard to figure out what the heck they do. They're around. They hire a lot of people. But we don't want that to be the reason why someone doesn't get hired. And we're creating tools to make that easy, right? So it's a very simple use case of how we can kind of get rid of this crazy barrier to entry, which is knowing how to move spaces in a Word document. Man, it's 2023. That kind of stuff is not relevant anymore, right? So let's focus on getting you in the room and having conversations with an employer. Again, lightweight, low-effort ways that we can kind of level the playing field for everyone using tech.
Any other comments on it, Joe? Go ahead.
Yeah, not necessarily with an AI solution. Not necessarily with an AI solution, but one of the things we've done as authorized training partners for the likes of AWS, Salesforce, CompTIA, Pega, Appian, and alike, we've actually partnered with universities to deliver industry-led courses that lead to recognized industry credentials. And what we've done to make this more accessible is we have a program called Upskill Together. And what that program is for every single paying person, all of the tech companies and all of our university partners have agreed to give a full scholarship for other people to take the same course with the same instructor, with the same labs, to get the same certifications. And what we've done, rather than just apply that to one cert, we've actually created a whole set of pathways so that you can not have any tech experience. You can go through some self-paced courses. Then you can graduate into these online credentials. And it's not about getting one, it's about getting multiple stackable credentials that can lead to a real job, because there's no point just getting a skill if that one skill doesn't lead to a job. So what we've tried to do is take an approach where if, obviously there are many people that need to upskill in tech year after year after year to stay relevant. And if we can take that model and make it accessible across all of our university partners and with our tech partners, it's going to provide a lot of opportunity for a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have it.
We still got time. Questions? Yes.
I've got one. Hi, I'm JP Michel. Thanks for the panel so far. It's been great to learn from you. I partner with a lot of higher ed career services, and I'm wondering, given your experience and exposure to the workforce that they might not have, what key messages would you have for them as they're thinking about preparing students for the future of work?
It's a good question. Who wants to lead off? Anybody ready to dive in?
I would work as local. Like, you need to connect them to a mentor in that community that can help them understand and find their inspiration. And that is where they can take that action and need to make a plan. Because we're talking about all these different things. We can give them skill sets. We can help them with the resume. We can streamline all this. But at the end of the day, if the behaviors don't change that are going to enable them every single day once they get that job, they won't have that next step that they need to have in their careers. Because we know once they get into a job, they need to upskill. They might do another gig job. They need to switch around. They need to make all of these decisions. So I think I would say get them engaged early with somebody who can help them mentor locally and get them working through what they need. And once they've got that mindset, then they've got a full package that they can really take to the community and help the community and themselves.
I actually think it's a fairly big problem, and I think career services is an afterthought for the most part in many organizations. Obviously, there's some really advanced career service centers at universities, but for the most part, what I've seen for the last decade or two is it's an afterthought. So how can you change it so that career services is an integral part of enrollment management, right? So when you're thinking about promoting programs, it's with the career in mind, right? It's with, what are the career options going to be, and what are the skills that you're going to acquire that are going to lead to that career, and how do you build on that, and how do you differentiate yourself? And I think throughout the entire program, career services shouldn't be something that you turn up to in your last semester of college. It should be something that you're thinking about constantly, from your first year of college, and when you're thinking about enrolling, keeping those options open.
You got more?
I do. Just
Fire
one
off.
thought. Yeah, I'm probably going to be crucified for saying this, but career service departments are woefully understaffed. Most of them are completely out of touch with the spectrum of jobs that are available, and they don't ask for help. And that is the perfect recipe for disaster. And we've seen this time and over again. I'll just say this. I had a conversation with someone that heads career services at a very large university, and we were talking about employment outcomes, and she said, looked it straight in the eye and said, a lot of our graduates only look for management positions. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? It's not even real. No one's going to hire them as a manager, 21 years old. And that's the message that they're doling out to students. And I do think that they're starting to be open to embracing solutions. There's tons of great organizations out there that are spending all day and all night working towards this cause. And so I'm optimistic for the future, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
I'm looking at the clock. It says 42 seconds. So if someone's got a fast question, we'll try and give you a fast answer. Any others left? Yes.
So I have a question regarding, when you think about teaching Europe, as you said, there are a lot of apprenticeship going on. The apprenticeship can engage with college
Well, I know you want to jump on an apprenticeship. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, short answer, like take less than 5% of Title IV money, put it under apprenticeship funding, so switch it from education department to labor, tie it up to outcomes, like ask apprenticeship providers to provide outcomes, meaning like 70% job placement rate at the very minimum after 6 months, audit that number, you have access to job data, to like wage and tax data. That's pretty easy. Right now, we invest in this country like 0.1% of Title IV on workforce development programs. It's tiny. It's tiny and scattered. It's mostly done at like state level, county level with workforce board. There are 3,000 of them in this country. It's really not efficient at all. So I would say we need to change those two systems. Better probably found that like pre-hire solution piece and workforce dev and apprenticeship and tie that to outcomes. And outcomes should be measured, should be audited, should be comparable, and should be transparent. And that also tied up to accreditation in higher education. So you need also to change the accreditation system, which is another story.
I don't think that's published anywhere on it. You know, like the stat for every college is, you've all seen it, right? It's the same stat. 95% of all of our graduates have a job with it. Yeah, you're like, really? So I'll just say, and wrapping up one quick thing, it's not quite, and by the way, Pierre is spot on apprenticeship. No one in the world knows more about it than this guy. So follow everybody here on this panel on LinkedIn, please. But I'll say, you know, a close cousin to apprenticeship that is a real trend happening right now, very few are paying attention to, is the large number of traditional age students who are going to work out of high school for an employer that is funding their college degree as part of their education benefits program. The fastest growing demographic enrolling in the large, traditionally online adult-serving institutions like WGU, SNU, UMGC are 18 to 24-year-olds. And yes, some of them are kind of what you would call retail customers, but the big drive that's behind that are education benefits programs that are not just about retention anymore, they're about talent attraction. We are looking at the commercial version of the GI Bill, and it is a way to fund college for free. It's not a college alternative, it's alternative college. You're obviously not doing that as a residential student in those cases, but that is a real growing trend, something that I think a lot of people are gonna pay attention to. It's not quite apprenticeship, it's short of it, but it's the dynamics of I'm getting paid, I'm in a job, I'm getting my college degree paid for, and it fundamentally shifts everything that we've thought of, because we've always thought about college as I go to college to get a good job. And now we are starting to see a real trend of I'm going to get a job to get college. So I think we're gonna see a lot of derivatives of this, of what I would call learn and earn models. We can't have enough of them. So first of all, huge thanks to the incredible folks on the panel. Thank you all for coming. We're happy to hang out. Thank you so much.